Welcome to Cop Church, a briefly reflection designed for law enforcement to hopefully provide a little good news for your week. Getting to church on a regular basis is tough, especially if you work on a rotating schedule. If you're finding these little short reflections useful, imagine how good actually going to church would be. I know it's tough to get to church of your choice every week, but maybe shoot for every couple weeks as your schedule allows. This week we're going to take a short look at the Gospel of Matthew 28:16 through 20. For context, the material in this final chapter of Matthew is unique to the other Gospels. Jesus uses the proper name for God as Father, Son, and Holy Spirit as he commissions the 11 disciples and sends them outside of Israel for the first time to all nations. Here it is. Then the 11 disciples went to Galilee, to the mountain where Jesus had told them to go. When they saw him, they worshipped him, but some doubted. Then Jesus came to them and said, "All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age." Two things really stick out to me today. First, it says that when they saw him, they worshipped and doubted. Isn't that us too? We go through the motions of faith and worship, but often we doubt. We can't get there all the way. Doubt to theologians can actually be evidence of a faith that is growing. Because God is mystery, it's impossible to know all about God or all of God. The immensity of God is unknowable, but yet, when we close our eyes and begin to speak with God, he is intimate with us. He is right there. There's always a sense that God is always with us and for us. Each person has the residue of their own creation in us, no matter how long it's been since we've practiced our faith. So the message in Matthew today seems to me to be very simple. Even the 11 disciples doubted in their hearts, even as they saw and heard Jesus sending them out to preach to all nations beyond the confines of Israel. This should make us feel better when we doubt. It's okay, I think, not to be able to accept everything that the gospel contains. It's impossible. So we should just accept what we can and be encouraged along the way. The second thing I took away from today is that the 11 are being sent out to do the work of Christ, but without Jesus being physically present. Jesus will soon take his rightful place as the only Son of God at the right hand of the Father. The disciples are transitioning into the role as apostles. The word apostle describes the first successful Christian missionary in a country or to a people. This is vastly different than being students learning at the feet of Jesus over his 3-year ministry. Think back for a minute on your own journey through the 4 phases of training to be an officer on patrol. As you move from phase to phase, more and more responsibility is given to you. You drive the car, you talk on the radio, you use the PTO's call sign. Like the disciples moving into becoming apostles, each of you has been commissioned in your swearing-in ceremony when you pledge to serve and protect the public and uphold the laws of the United States and the annotated code of your state and county. You've been sent out, no longer students, but fully vested with the trust of the public on your shoulders. It is a heavy load to carry, just like your duty belt, vest, and radio. You've been chosen by God to the same level as any minister to do a difficult task. You've been chosen to run towards danger, even as everyone else runs away. Forget the compensation issues of law enforcement and the often lack of pension. No one would willingly do the job of an officer or deputy without being called to by something greater than ourselves. Duty calls, the saying says. But behind that sense of duty must be the faith to allow the often dangerous road less traveled. And so we should follow the example of the disciples, who stand in front of the Lord just risen from the dead and worship him, and yet they doubt. Their doubt gives us permission to doubt the immensity and the awesomeness that is God. My message to you is simple today. Don't sweat the little stuff. Don't worry about your lack of faith or even your doubt. Work hard, work honestly with compassion for others, and get home at the end of your shift. Know that you are called by God to do a very difficult job in the midst of the worst politics that has ever offered your honorable profession. It's been a terrible, bad week for us. We remember the officers of Jeremy Brinton of Nogales, Superintendent Scott Mahoney of Delaware County, Corporal Thomas Frazier from the Artesia Police Department in New Mexico, Los Angeles Probation Officer Michael Wall, Memphis Police Department Officer Scotty Triplett, Jefferson Parish Detective Stephen Arnold, and Minnesota Conservation Officer Sarah Grell. Remember that each friendly wave you receive and each free meal that strangers provide you, these are moments where God is encouraging you. It's really God reaching out to say thank you, even when the world seeks to defund you. God is actively reaching out to you all the time with the treats you sometimes find at roll call. Each person that thanks you for their service this week is actually Jesus in person, wishing you well and offering his smile of thanks. This is Chaplain Patrick. Thanks for listening to Cop Church. We'll talk again next week. Until then, peace be with you.